from the prior administration saying that the 2016 guidelines had become a tool for insurers to deny opioid coverage, right? Here comes the third-party distortion, as if these guidelines weren't enough. Now you've got insurers denying opioid coverage and for doctors to undertreat or even...
You're listening to America's Web Radio on the AmericasBroadcastNetwork.com. Thank you for listening.
And good afternoon, good whatever it is. This is Disjointed America's Web Radio, but it's not really, because this is we're going to do another very important David's Pick today, and I invited with a little, yeah, very low. I know. That was rude.
Hey, I'm only 5'3" if I'm wearing the right shoes.
3 what?
Yeah, well.
Okay, well, we won't even go there, but, anyway, I invited Victor to be on because I respect, I know he's going to find this hard to believe, but I respect his opinions, and we've had a lot of stuff going on, and I guess my first question is, when are the Democrats going... No, I'm sorry. When are the Democrats going to start working and doing something? Correct me if I'm wrong, but in the Constitution, doesn't it say we'll have representatives from each state going to the House of Representatives and to the Senate in the House, and they are to work for the general public in voting for and making the government run, basically. Well, and where does it say that in the Constitution? I guess I'm just too dumb and I've missed it in reading the Constitution, that it says we elect people to go to Washington to impeach the president.
Well, I'll tell you this, David, the biggest problem is career politicians. That's one thing that the Constitution never called for. And we don't really specifically need, well, let me change that. We might need term limits, and the reason why I would say we wouldn't need them is because the American people are supposed to, or it would be nice if the majority of them would stay engaged and throw some of these bozos out. And I say that on both sides. You've got just about every Democrat that needs to be thrown out, and you've got a lot of Republican establishment people that need to be thrown out. But the Constitution, if you read the writings of the Founding Fathers, they didn't want career politicians. They wanted people to go represent their community, represent their district. And when I say community, I mean district in terms of the House. And then the Senate, the 2 senators from each state used to be appointed by the legislature of the state, which is what we should get back to. But that's a whole other story.
Well, that would open Pandora's box.
Yeah, it would.
There's not enough graft and greed and under-the-table exchange as it is.
Yeah,
that would.
Well, that's a good point too, David. Because another problem I have with career politicians is, let's take since Biden is a topic of late. Or you know what? I won't even use Biden. Let's use Sanders. Senator Sanders, the socialist, he's never had a private sector job. He's never held a job. He never had a money-making private sector job in his life. He got elected to Congress. I believe the Congress first, the House. That was basically his first job. Then he went on to be in the Senate. All he has done is get elected and work off the public fare. I mean, he's been paid by the taxpayers. Somehow he's a multimillionaire. So he went into politics, I won't say penniless, but he was not a rich man. Now, 50 years later of him serving the public, and I'm using air quotes, he's a multimillionaire. So this is one of the problems we have. You shouldn't be able to enter politics with meager means and come out of politics a millionaire or multimillionaire. That just wasn't the way it was supposed to be. But
name one that hadn't.
Well, there you go. And it happens on both sides, and that's the sad thing. The one I can name probably right now off the top of my head is President Trump. He didn't go into politics to get rich. He's already rich. Yep. And there's a president right now that we have who doesn't even take the salary. He donates the salary that he's supposed to get as a president. He donates it. So he is clearly setting an example that no other politician will set or has set. But you get back to that what are these people doing up there? What are our elected officials doing? We're paying them with our sweat equity because the government doesn't earn money. They seize it, and they seize it from the public. And that money that we work hard for, that's taxed, that's paying and supporting these politicians, we should start demanding that they get
You just brought up a topic that really upsets me. And
I'm sure.
That's this deal of let's start another investigation.
Yeah.
And who the hell is paying for it?
Yeah, exactly.
$34 million on the Russian fiasco.
The Mueller investigation was north of 34 million. I mean, it's ridiculous how much they spent on that. And now look at what they're doing today. Adam Schiff, Shiftless Adam. I mean, this guy is up in the House today. They're questioning the DNI, the Director of National Intelligence, and it is a fiasco. What they're doing this morning is another waste of money, waste of taxpayer dollars. I mean, that's what government does the best, is waste money, and it ought to infuriate everyone, no matter what side of the aisle they're on. And David, I would venture to say too, if we asked elected officials, and this includes Republicans, what does caring for the general welfare of the United States, that is in the Constitution, the general welfare. I bet you none of them could give us the proper answer.
I bet you're right. Yeah, that's a very good point. And we should. And I guess, yesterday I was watching some of the fiasco, and I think it was Britt Hume came on with Fox, and he's the first I've heard say it. And all of this stuff that started yesterday after the document release, and there is no there, and there is, Trump is not stupid. He's not going to say, if you don't do this, I'm going to do that. And he doesn't. He's smarter than that. But anyway, Britt Hume was the first, and I've been saying this now for a goodly while, but you brought it up just a minute ago. What is this thing with Trump? And I've said all along, I think most of the jerks in the House and Senate are purposely jealous of, here's a guy that won when everybody said he couldn't. Mm-hmm. Here's a guy that's made $1 bajillion, which they say is crooked. Where are you a crook if you do everything right, and you have a staff of attorneys and staff of accountants that keep you in the clear? Mm-hmm. It's jealousy that they're, why are they after him?
You may have hit the proverbial, how do they say it, the nail on the head there, David. There is no doubt in my mind that there is jealousy along the political elite, jealousy for Trump. And some of the Democrat listeners out there are probably laughing right now, going, "Oh, Victor, you're crazy." Well, no, you got to think about this, because, David, you're absolutely right. You've got a guy from the outside. First of all, the Washington swamp, and this is establishment Republicans, this is never Trump or Republicans, and this is the Democrat Party. They do not like the fact that an outsider was able to bust into their party. What people need to understand is Washington is a bubble. And it is an elitist bubble, and they do not like it when somebody like a blue-collar millionaire, which is Donald Trump, can come in there and bust up that party. If you look back, David, the left used to love Donald Trump. They loved him until he got into politics. And then because he got into politics, now think about this, David. If Donald Trump had run as a Democrat, now Donald Trump has been a Democrat most of his life. He changed back and forth several times among his career. He was a Republican, a Democrat, a Republican, a Democrat, but most of the time a Democrat. Had he run for president as a Democrat and got elected, they would be fawning over him right now. But because he has an R by his name, and because that he gets to wield the so-called power of Washington, the Republican way, so to speak, because that's how they look at it. They look at everything as power. They are trying to vilify this man. So they want to vilify him because he's got an R by his name, and they want to vilify him because he was an outsider. And, here, somebody asked me the other day how I could still support Trump. And I looked at him and I said, look, because I know when there are Republicans in Washington that hate this man, when there are never Trumpers that hate this man, and when the whole Democrat Party hates this man. So the majority of Washington hates him.
He must be good.
He must be good. I mean, he must be the right guy. I have been wanting a non-politician to lead this country for a long time, and we've got one now. But I do believe there's some jealousy there, David, because Donald Trump came from the outside. He ran as not a traditional Republican, not as a traditional Democrat. He kind of ran as a populist. And I'm not going to sit here and say what's good or bad about populism, but Donald Trump didn't run as a Republican ideologue, and he didn't run as a Democrat ideologue. So, and he was able to penetrate that Washington bubble. And now the media, which is an arm of the left, the Democrats, they have been very used to being able to take out whichever Republican they want. And there have been years and years and years where the Democrat Party, with the help of the lamestream media, has always been able to fixate on a Republican and take him out. They haven't been able to do that with Donald Trump, and it drives them crazy.
Oh, the last couple of appearances, one with Donald Trump at the UN, one with the speech and his conference. I guess it wasn't really a news conference, just a handshaking with the Australian, I believe, Prime Minister. But some of the idiots, Pelosi being one, and Schumer, had in the past talked about that Trump wasn't presidential. And I would put up Trump and his beautiful wife as the most presidential two people I've seen in years, compared to Obama that didn't know which fork to use, and Michelle that wore the clown suits. We're very fortunate, in my opinion, to have somebody like Trump and our First Lady. They're a beautiful couple. They're well spoken. How many other people know how to speak 7 or 8 languages? I sure
Yeah,
do.
think about it.
And,
I have trouble enough with 2 languages.
Yeah, well, at least you got 2, and I got. Well, I take that back.
English and Texan.
And Texan, yes. But no, it's, I guess that's got to be frustrating as hell to the Democrats, that no matter what they try to pull, it blows up on them. And it wasn't that long ago that it was, Trump's not acting presidential, and he'll never get along with foreign countries or foreign leaders.
Right.
And
remember the doom and gloom that they predicted. We talked about it the other day, David, that Trump was, if you elect Trump, he's going to isolate the U.S. He's not going to talk to friends. He's not going to talk to foes. He's not. And think about this, David. It wasn't that long ago when we had an Obama administration where they were begging Obama to go sit down with Kim Jong-un. They were begging him to go sit down with the Ayatollahs of Iran, and they were saying how he needs to sit down with anyone he should be able to sit down and talk to. And I remember there were Republicans at the time that were saying, no, you shouldn't do that. And I was one of the ones that said, talking is not a bad thing. And you don't want to bring them to Washington. Yeah, you don't want to elevate them to that. But you can meet them somewhere. And but Obama never did that. But who did it? Who did it? Donald J. Trump.
And the other thing about Obama, whenever he was out, they're talking about 180 degrees, is Trump going out and saying America is number one and this is why, and we'll support you and we want your support. And all Obama ever did was go out and say how bad the United States is.
Well, he went on an apologetic tour.
And an apologetic tour. We have done so many things wrong in the past, and it's all the difference in the world. And I think we finally have respect in the world that we didn't have for 8 years.
Well, there's no question about that, David. Obama went on an 8-year apologetic tour. The current crop of candidates that are running for the Democrat nominee for presidency, they're basically, every chance they get, they've moved from apologizing on the behalf of the U.S. in their eyes to accusing the U.S. of things that are, I mean, some of them are just outlandish and ridiculous, and then some of them are even bad mouthing the United States.
It's our fault that there is not perfect air to breathe.
Right. And you bring up air, and they talk about clean air, clean water. The United States is on the forefront of reducing the most emissions, reducing everything that they say is bad. We lead the way. Where's their outrage on China? Where's their outrage on India and any other country other than the United States?
It's where their head generally is. Okay, we'll be back right after this with a special David's Pick and our super guest, Victor Armendariz. We'll be back right after this.
You can keep your doctor, you can keep your plan, and every family will save thousands of dollars a year. I'm Ellen Deal, and if you've been hurt by the Affordable Care Act, you can email MAGA45CAG@gmail.com to see if we can help. Small business owners, individuals, families, and baby boomers, email MAGA45CAG@gmail.com for 3 easy questions to determine if you can get away from Obamacare. I'm a 20-year veteran of the insurance industry and here to help you for all your insurance needs.
The Docs for Patient Care Foundation is your way to join the fight and become a member of an organization created by doctors for patients dedicated to fighting for your healthcare freedom and preserving the doctor-patient relationship. Get a pen and paper. Write down www.docsforpatientcarefoundation.org. That's www.docsforpatientcarefoundation.org. Go to our site and please make a generous tax-deductible donation and join the fight today. Thank you.
You're listening to America's Web Radio on the AmericasBroadcastNetwork.com. Thank you for listening.
Victor, one of the reasons I call this special session, or whatever you want to call it, and ask you to come beyond because of your knowledge and background and so forth. But one of the things that we've got to get across to people, and, is back to why do we elect people to represent us if they're going to Washington, and one, they're not representing us, and two, they're spending money like it grows on trees, which we know it doesn't. And they've done more disruption. They've done and it's both sides of the aisles. Mm-hmm. The Republicans can't stand up and say we did a better job because they didn't, and they haven't done, and they're not stopping. And if one side can stop the other, then the other side should be able to stop the other side or whatever. But I got very frustrated yesterday listening to this garbage of one more multi-million dollar inquiry and investigation, and I quite honestly hope that Pelosi's face blows up and her last skin graft
comes undone,
falls off or something. But anyway, she's just not a nice lady.
You mentioned Pelosi. I just look, folks and listeners, and thanks for listening today. But think about this. In 1998, Nancy Pelosi went on the House floor and demanded that the impeachment proceedings stop. Now, Bill Clinton did break the law. Now, I'm not going to get into was it right or wrong to impeach him. I myself believe that the impeachment ought to be the last resort, and it ought to be only because a high crime or misdemeanor was committed. So I'm not going to get into a debate about whether Clinton was wrong or right. But the fact of the matter is he did break the law. And Pelosi stood there and said, despite him breaking the law, that impeachment was bad for the country. I mean, folks, go look this up. You could probably, if YouTube haven't killed it, you might be able to find it. But Pelosi stood on the floor in 1998 and told the country that, and she did press conferences, and she told the American people that impeachment was bad for the country, that this was only because the Republicans hated Bill Clinton is why they were going to impeach. She went on and on and on about how bad it was to go down the impeachment road. Now, again, let me remind you, President Clinton was convicted of a crime. It was perjury. That is a crime, and he was president, and
was disbarred.
And he was disbarred. So the situation is different. But yet, Pelosi stood there and said how bad impeachment would be. Fast forward to today. And Nancy Pelosi and her cohorts are telling you that basically, we lost an election, we don't like this guy, we don't like his tweets, we must impeach. In fact, if you look at, Al Green, Representative Al Green let the cat out of the bag yesterday, and he may have done it before yesterday. They asked him about his feelings on impeachment and why they're pushing so hard for this right now. And he actually said, and I've said this before, if you really pay attention to a Democrat, to their list, to their words and to their actions, you'll actually get to the truth of what they're trying to say or what they want to say. He actually looked at the journalists and said, well, I feel like if we don't impeach Donald Trump, he will get reelected. Well, folks, I am here to tell you that nowhere in the Constitution does it say, I don't like you, therefore I get to impeach you. And that's what the Democrat Party is today. And this is where Pelosi just feeds off the ignorance or stupidity of the American people. And I think a lot of it is more towards the ignorant side, because you can fix ignorance. And we have short-term memories. And no one's going to go back. There's no millennial today that knows in 1998 that Nancy Pelosi went out and was saying what an awful thing we're doing to the country by going through impeachment proceedings. But yet here we are today. She's telling you that we must go through impeachment proceedings. Although I have a little theory, David, I think Pelosi is actually trying to slow down these. I think she's lost control. I think she doesn't want to go into the impeachment proceedings, but the wacko left led by Ocasio-Cortez is forcing her to do it.
No, I agree with you, and I think it's only going to get nasty. And what's the old saying? You want to pick your own fight,
Yeah.
And I think that the Democrats,
the hypocrites,
have bitten on the wrong dog, and they're going to feel the brunt of it. And it's sort of interesting. I feel sorry for Trump that this ain't fair, but I think he loves it, and he continues to be about 5 steps ahead of them.
He really does.
No matter what they do, he's already, he's just 5 steps ahead of them and make them look like clowns.
The difference is, and I've said this before, Trump didn't need this. He doesn't need any status from being a politician. He doesn't need to get rich off the backs of the American people. He doesn't need any adulation for becoming presidency. I think to him it was I love this country. I'm going to see what I can do, and I think I can win. In fact, he said, I know I can win, and he did. I mean, Donald Trump's a doer. Whether you like him or not, he is a doer, and just look at the wealth he has created over the years. And folks, those of you who are out there want to call Donald Trump a racist, the man has hired more black people and more Hispanic people. In private sector jobs, he has created more wealth for Hispanic families, more wealth for black families. He has created and offered jobs that have allowed black families, white families, Asian families, Hispanic families to create a life for themselves and take care of their families. That was something Donald Trump created. It wasn't a government program that created Donald Trump's hotels. It wasn't a government program that had Donald Trump's land, his realty business. It wasn't a government program that allowed Trump to build some casinos. It wasn't a government program that gave Donald Trump money to hire the people that he hired. And if you don't believe me, just go do some research and see the number of people of color, of different backgrounds, that the Trump businesses have hired over the years. So how the people can get away with calling Donald Trump a racist just blows my mind. I can understand if you want to disagree with Trump or you don't like his personality, but stop trying to be disparaging. It's not getting you anywhere. In fact, David, I had quite the little Facebook thing going on this morning where I myself was called a racist. And then I replied and I said, well, you realize that I'm a Hispanic. And they came back and said, well, I know a lot of Hispanics who are racist. I mean, it's
like
just,
me. Some of my best friends are Mexicans.
There you go. So it's amazing to me. And all I did was reply to someone made a post that said we went through 8 years of Obama with 0 scandals. Well, folks, that's just not true. Yeah. So I quickly rattled off 16 scandals that went on within the Obama administration, and then people started. They didn't come back to me with trying to defend their point. They didn't come back to me and say, well, let's talk about this. They didn't come back to me and say, well, I disagree with this, but maybe you're right about this. Oh, no. They came back and started calling me names, called me racist, called me that I was un-American and unpatriotic. So somehow in the eyes of the left, if you disagree, if you have political discourse, then you're un-American and you're unpatriotic, and that's a horrible road to go down. And what I'd say to my Democrat friends, all you're doing right now is re-electing Donald Trump. If you really, really are passionate about your cause, then get together, get off your butt, go raise some money, go get in front of some cameras, go walk your neighborhoods, come up with some ideas, and go beat Donald Trump in the ballot box.
Well, it's like our former guest, Donna Rhodes, said a minute ago, or a few minutes ago. Maybe she didn't say it on the air. We were talking about it off air, but the fact is the Democrats, they have nothing to run on.
Right.
They have not come up with anything. No cure, no claim, no nothing.
No, well, it was back in the 90s that the Democrats were running on the platform of it's the economy, stupid.
Yeah.
Well, David, they can't run against the economy right now.
They can't run against anything, and that's got to infuriate them. That what Donald Trump said he would do, he's done.
And there is another great point, David. How long has it been, David, since we've had a president that on the campaign trail made promises, made a checklist of those promises, got elected, and then went down the list? Check, check, check. I promise this, I'm going to deliver. I promise that. That is pretty darn refreshing. I would even commend a Democrat if they did that. But how long has it been since we've had any Democrat or Republican president that went down the checklist and fought for the promises they made and made them happen? I don't think we've had that. I don't even know if we can say that we've ever had that. But we do have it with President Trump.
Well, Obama said he was going to give away everything, and he did.
And he tried.
And he said that he was going to reduce our military, and he did.
Yeah, that's true.
So,
but
it's Trump. Like I said, he stays 4, 5, 6, 10 steps ahead of the Democrats, and
he really does.
I don't want a Democrat in here. I don't like most Democrats.
Not today's Democrats.
They don't make any sense, and so they have really nothing to debate about.
Well, if you just listen to the candidates, David, and if you're out there listening to us right now and you're a Democrat voter because you're married to the letter D, let me ask you this. Right now we have, and if you're a Democrat and supposedly you believe in helping the children and you believe in helping different groups because you put everybody in a group. You're either Hispanic American, you're Black American, you're Asian, you're this, you're that, and the other. Well, let me ask you this, Democrat voter, and those of you married to the letter D. Are you ready to get rid and reverse the lowest unemployment for Hispanics in history? The lowest unemployment for blacks right now? Are you ready to turn that back? You want to turn that dial back? Those are the questions we need to ask, David.
And who's going to pay for it? We'll be back right after this.
Perhaps you are struggling to cope with the disease of addiction. If not, you probably know a family member or friend that needs help in battling the cravings and the personal and professional damage done by the effects of drugs or alcohol. Get a pen and paper and be ready to write down the following. These are the issues that the trained staff at the Atlanta Healing Center address and treat every day. Their doctors and counselors with over 40 years of practice in the field of addiction can treat the suffering individual in a thoughtful, compassionate, and experienced manner and guide him or her along the path to recovery. So call 770-696-9862 and speak to a knowledgeable staff member about how you or your loved one can be helped to enjoy a better and healthier life. More information is also available on the website at www.atlantahealingcenter.com.
Whether cruising the strip in a 57 Chevy or taking the family on a vacation in a 71 Oldsmobile Vista Cruiser, You need to tune in to Classic Cars with Steve Ronaldo and Jim Weber every Saturday from 8 to 9 a.m. on americaswebradio.com.
You're listening to America's Web Radio on the americasbroadcastnetwork.com. Thank you for listening.
And we're back on America's Web Radio and a special session of David's Pick with our special guest, Victor Armendariz. And Victor, thanks for taking your morning off and coming in.
Absolutely.
We've had some fantastic shows. This morning we started out with Donna Rowe, a Vietnam veteran, the First Lady, inducted into the Georgia Military Hall of Fame, a nurse from Vietnam, and just a beautiful, wonderful lady. And then I wanted to do this show and talk about this impeachment thing, and being the conservative that I am, and as I was getting sick watching the stuff yesterday on television, and I
wait till you see today what's going on.
Oh,
it's even worse.
It's worse.
Oh, it's worse. If you watch, David, what's going on this morning with the hearing, they brought in the Director of National Intelligence, and they're drilling him. And they're getting the Democrats. They just look like fools, because, especially Adam Schiff, because they're trying to get him to say they're leading him. They talk about leading the witness, but they're trying to get him to say things that he's just too smart for him. Huh. And it's quite the display.
Well, I as I sat and watched this yesterday, I kept asking myself, one, who's paying for it? And, what is it England that has the law that if you sue somebody and you win, then you win. But if you sue somebody and they win, you pay.
Loser pays?
Yeah.
I'm not sure if they, I know Texas did some tort reform to that, I think to that nature. But yeah, David, that's something that I've been calling for a while. We should have a loser pay system.
Yeah, and particularly with Congress. And when it's so one-sided, it's either the Republicans or the Democrats. That's not why I send my tax dollars in. I send my tax dollars in to keep the repairs on the road, keep our military up, do stuff for the country. And I can't see that this yelling for impeachment or all of these investigations are for anything. If somebody is that damn crooked or they've done something that damn bad, then yes, but it should be so obvious that it's like the stuff that was on the blue dress. Well, that was pretty easy to figure out, and even back then, and I'm tired. I am really tired as a taxpayer. We're being had, and nothing has been accomplished. And the other thing I was wondering about on the couch, sitting on the couch, was had we had Hillary or a weaker leader, not only nothing, but less than nothing would have been accomplished. And I just, wonder how Trump has been able to do what he's been able to do, and whether it's executive order or just the steamroller technique.
Well, David, that's a very good observation, because when you look at President Trump, and again, whether you like him or not, just drop your emotions and just look at the actions. Look at the past presidents, whether it was Obama or Bush 2 or Bush 1. Just go back, and not just the presidents. Look at some senators, look at some congressmen, look at these career politicians who are perfectly fine with kicking the can down the road. They're perfectly fine with never actually coming up with a solution to a problem. Folks, we've been fighting poverty for 50 plus years. We've been fighting the war on drugs for 50-something plus years. There's a reason for that. There's a reason that for 8 years under the Obama administration, Obama stoked the flames of the race debate, let's say, or pitting people. Look at the Democrat Party. You have to be, you're a Mexican American, you're a Guatemalan American, you're this, you're a that, you're a black American, you're a gay American, you're a transgender American, you're a not sure what you are American. You're, I mean, when they put people in these groups and you allow yourself to be put in these groups, then what the government does is get you to be pit you against another group.
Which reminds me, I got to break in at 1 o'clock. We start Let's Talk Venezuelan English, right. And at 2 o'clock, Let's Talk Venezuelan in Spanish.
No, that's right, and I'm sure they will probably get into some of this too, because when you pit one group against another, then the eye to the government goes away. So you're not really watching what the government's doing, and then they start manipulating you, and you're fighting with another group, and then before you know it, you're both beholden and dependent on the government. And that's awful. You know, the one thing that David, that the Washington establishment hates is the idea of independence. They really do, especially today's Democrat Party.
Well, they're smarter than you are.
Exactly. They know everything.
I didn't include myself in that because I think I'm smarter than they are. But.
Think about it, David. Today's Democrat Party and many in the Republican establishment believe that they can take your money because they know how to spend it better than you. That is messed up. And David, you're always saying, where's the money coming from? Where's the money coming from? How are we going to pay for it? That ought to be every elected official should say whenever a bill is put before them, or if they're introducing a bill, it ought to be ended with how we're going to pay for it, or this is how we're going to pay for it. We as people, we the people, should start demanding from our elected officials, don't come to me telling me you need this, or don't come to me telling me I need this, unless you're coming and telling me how you're going to get the money. And don't come to me and tell me you're going to raise my taxes, because that ain't going to work. You need to come tell me we're shutting down this program so we can shift the money to this. Because the federal government wastes so much money right now, David, I don't have to tell you that. So we should start demanding from both sides of the aisle that if you have these grandiose programs, and we're such desperate need to have them, that black people over here or Hispanic people over here, they are so dumb and can't fend for themselves that we have to have a program for them, or this transgender group over here, they're so confused on their sexuality that they can't fend for themselves that we have to have a program for them. Well, then you ought to tell me where you're going to get that money from.
I agree. And as you were talking, I had this thought that I'd like to challenge, and I'll even challenge you and myself, and we'll bring some of the folks that are running for federal office in and talk to them and ask them some of the questions. How do you feel, or how do you see our government paying for this?
Oh, that would be awesome.
And start. You need to. I would even say I would buy the spiral notebook. Ask the question, write down the questions, and when you go to Republican or Democrat, anything, ask them how they're going to pay for it.
That's a great idea. And look, on my show on Tuesdays, I'm bringing in candidates, and when we get into 2020, I'm going to have a lot more candidates come in. And David, I think that is going to be, if not the first question, it will be the last question, or it will be my question to every time they bring up a program is, where's the money coming from? How are we going to pay for it? And taxing the public is not a viable answer.
And you can take it both ways. The Republican, the Democrat that comes up with either tax or we're going to spend this for this, and we're going to buy square toilet paper rolls instead of round ones. So how are they going to pay for it? How are you going to address that, Mr. Republican?
Exactly, because if I were running today, and that question, first of all, that question wouldn't have to be asked of me, because I would run on cutting spending. David, when was the last time we had a politician, that Republican or Democrat, that called a special House session like they did this morning and brought some people before them, themselves, the politicians, and asked about the $22+ trillion debt that we have? We have a spending problem in Washington, and no one wants to address it. So if I were running for Congress or Senate, for House or for Senate, and someone asked me, hey, I can tell you right now, well, I want to shut down the Department of Education. I want to shut down, if not drastically reduce, the EPA. There's plenty of other programs that I'm prepared, including the IRS, that we can start gutting. There are government. Okay, how much money are we giving to scientists on climate change for the cause of climate change? This is money that's being wasted. How many studies are we doing right now to figure out why a truck driver falls asleep at the wheel? That was a study, David, that taxpayer money was spent on.
I can believe it.
That is ridiculous. So,
and
these
yet
are the
we
things.
won't spend money on one of the most important programs of this century, probably ever, and that's NASA and the
Amen to
products
that.
and the well, not only products but the advancements in science that we got from having a space program, and to have cut it is just deplorable to me. And
Absolutely.
that's not how you save money. That's how you lose money.
Well, that's how you lose a generation, or that's how you lose the future. And there are people out there that would be all too happy for us to do that. I mean, look, the Obama administration, we're lucky they didn't dismantle NASA.
Yeah, totally.
And see, I believe, David, that the American people on the whole, they will not have problems with money going to certain things. Tax. In fact, most of the Americans don't have a problem with taxes. We have a problem with the tax system. And if we could do a more transparent tax system, which would be the fair tax, a consumption tax, then we really can see where the money's going, and the government would have to budget. Because under a true consumption tax system, the American people truly have the option to say, you know what, I'm going to pay more taxes this month, or I'm going to pay less taxes this month. What better force to use against politicians and keep them in line by saying, you know what, you're going to get less money this month unless you start, spending correctly.
And your buddy Sanders, we're going to tax the rich more. Well, I tell you what, in the fair tax, I'm sorry, I wish I could, but my bathtub just won't hold a 150-foot yacht.
Right.
And so I'm not going to be out buying a $10 million yacht or $100 million yacht. But the rich can, and they're, heaven forbid, they're taxed. So they are paying more. Duh.
Think about it. You brought up the yacht business. The yacht industry employs painters, mechanics, decorators, furniture companies, tile companies, carpet companies. I can go on and on and on of all the small businesses that are created and supported by just the yacht industry.
You missed one. And we had him on a show on the Business Hour a month and a half, 2 months ago, and I had never, ever thought about this. But these were this company that was on the Business Hour and interviewed by Ron Camacho. They're in the customized stairwell business. Stair business.
I wouldn't have thought of that one.
And that's amazing.
Wow.
But a 2-story, 3-story yacht.
And that's an industry that was created probably because there was a demand for some 1%er out there who wanted a custom stairwell or staircase. Capitalism is a beautiful, beautiful thing.
Amen.
And it doesn't happen in any country like it does here. And the fact that we have a political party, the Hippocrats, the Democrats, that and folks, this is not hyperbole. Just listen to Kamala Harris. Listen to Elizabeth Warren, the fake Indian. Listen to O'Rourke, the fake Hispanic. Listen to Bernie, the socialist. Listen to Spartacus Booker. Listen to oh my gosh, I'm going to forget the other ones, but they're all spouting the same thing. Their message is capitalism bad, socialism good. You having money bad, us having money good. Everything that the Democrats of today are proposing, whether it's Cortez or Kamala Harris and all the other ones I just named, everything they are proposing is something you, the people, we, the people, are going to have to bear, not them. The elitists will be protected from it. So you have to you've got to remember that.
And with that being said, we've got to take our final break on David's Pick with our guest, Victor Armendariz. I can do it.
You can.
Anyway, we'll be back right after this.
The Docs for Patient Care Foundation is your way to join the fight and become a member of an organization created by doctors for patients, dedicated to fighting for your healthcare freedom and preserving the doctor-patient relationship. Get a pen and paper. Write down docs4patientcarefoundation.org. That's DOCS, the number 4, patientcarefoundation.org. Go to our site and please make a generous tax-deductible donation and join the fight today. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Dr. Mike Karuchak. Have you ever wondered what doctors talk about amongst themselves? If you do, join us on the Doctor's Lounge and hear the doctors' conversations amongst themselves. Join me and my co-host, Dr. Hal Schertz, every Thursday morning, 8 to 9 a.m.
Perhaps you are struggling to cope with the disease of addiction. If not, you probably know a family member or friend that needs help in battling the cravings and the personal and professional damage done by the effects of drugs or alcohol. Get a pen and paper and be ready to write down the following. These are the issues that the trained staff at the Atlanta Healing Center address and treat every day. Their doctors and counselors with over 40 years of practice in the field of addiction can treat the suffering individual in a thoughtful, compassionate, and experienced manner and guide him or her along the path to recovery. So call 770-696-9862 and speak to a knowledgeable staff member about how you or your loved one can be helped to enjoy a better and healthier life. More information is also available on the website at www.atlantahealingcenter.com.
You're listening to America's Web Radio on the AmericasBroadcastNetwork.com. Thank you for listening.
Okay, you're back on America's Web Radio, and we've got great news for you. It's my understanding we don't have a green room, so in our plain white wall room,
we do have a lobby.
We do have a lobby. In our lobby, sitting out there, waiting. Just like a thoroughbred horse.
That's right.
On the gate, ready to go. We got Josie Cruz and Kat Fletcher waiting for the bell to go off, and they'll come running into the studio and do a great Let's Talk Venezuelan show.
Absolutely. And if you're listening, you should stay tuned and listen, because Josie is running for Congress here in Georgia. She's running for the 4th district. She's running against Hank Johnson, and those of you outside of Georgia probably
the fact that the island is
it hasn't sunk yet.
But it hasn't sunk. It's only listing to the right.
It might tip around to the right, according to Hank Johnson. That's but yeah, folks, stay tuned and listen, because she's a fireball, and she is going to run against Hank and hopefully beat him. But Dave, I want to take a moment here just to give a little shout out. We have a listener in Pennsylvania who's hard at work in a shed. In a storage shed.
It's our kind of people.
It's our kind of people. And he's listening. He's listening very astutely to the show.
Hijacking. I am Josie Cruz.
That's a terrorist invasion?
Yes, I'm hijacking your program. I'm sorry, I couldn't resist it. How you doing?
Siéntate, por favor.
Gracias, thank you. I heard that you say I'm a firework.
Absolutely. He called you thoroughbred. So, ladies and gentlemen, we just got joined in the studio by Josie, and as I said before, she is running for the 4th district.
Official.
Here's what people think about this.
Golf clap. Folks, you just never know what's going to happen on live radio. You just don't. And Josie, I'm so glad you jumped in here today. Give us a quick update. We've got listeners all over. I just did a shout out to some listeners in Pennsylvania, and they may not be able to vote in Georgia, but they sure can spread the word about Josie.
And help with the war, because I consider this this campaign I'm running. I consider this as a declaration of war.
There you go.
Okay, it has two fronts. The first front is against socialism, because socialism is trying to destroy our country, my country, the United States. And the other front is the spiritual battle. So in this part, every person who lives outside District Number 4, I'm going to need your help. And it's going to be very simple. It has two points. The first one is I would love for you guys, anyone who's Christian out there, anyone who is a Jew, anyone who got a fear of God, of the Lord, to pray, not only for me, but to pray for those people who are going to listen to my message. Okay, so the Lord, God, who we call God, can open my mind and their heart to receive my message with my cute accent. Okay, with my cute accent. And the second one is, of course, with donation. Whoever's going to donate $5, $10, $20, yeah, everything adds up. But yes, a lot of people say, well, I would love to vote for you, but I cannot do it because I don't live in your district. I live in another place. But that's the best way to help me out is with prayer. So the Lord can prepare those hearts and those minds. Because guess what? Here in the DeKalb area, which is the county that defines the election for District Number 4, believe it or not, okay? The DeKalb will need that kind of help from all the people around it, from all Christian, all Jews, any person, like I said from before, who had the fear of the Lord and who wants to better this country. That's the kind of help that I'm looking for now, because the attack is going to come, and we're going to need just the 20% of those votes to flip them. So if we can flip just 20% of the DeKalb amount of people who are voting, we will have the number that we need to flip, not one, to flip the seat.
And let me tell you, if you flip that seat, then there's going to be other seats that'll flip in Georgia, without a doubt. And you're in a similar situation as President Trump. You know, the one thing that today's Democrats are scared to death of, and they won't mention this, David, this is another thing, they're terrified that Donald Trump is breaking into the black vote and breaking into the Hispanic vote. I mean, we have right here in studio right now 3 Hispanics that proudly will vote for Donald Trump.
That means I'm a minority.
I'm Fletcher. I'm Fletcher. With an accent, but I'm Fletcher.
So I want to say one other thing too. This is not. We're going to continue to do the show. Let's talk Venezuelan, because we're going to tell the truth. And both Josie and Kat are Venezuelans. And they're Americans now, but they come from Venezuela. And they know, and they still have friends and folks that they know, that we will tell the truth about what's going on in Venezuela and what has gone on and how wonderful socialism is in Venezuela. So with that being said, if you're in a Spanish business, or you're in a mail order or online business, I'm not giving Josie, and I don't know where the politics are and all that stuff, but we're going to do a show on Venezuela, and I'm just very fortunate to have the two of them that'll do it. But we need sponsors, and we're doing something that is so unique. The first hour, which we're going to start in about 7 minutes, will be in English, and the second hour will be in Spanish. Nobody else in the country that I know of is doing that. So if you've got a business that you want to help support the Venezuelans and hear the truth, that all Americans can hear the truth, let us know. Call our general manager or call me or whoever, and or email us at general manager or GM at America's Web Radio or David, and I'll be glad to get back to you. And it's for literally pennies. You will be able to reach the world with your forum or with your product or whatever you're selling, and just let us help you and support the Venezuelans by helping sponsor the show. And they need they need help. There are problems in Venezuela that our media is not even addressing, other than America's Web Radio. And we're going to continue to do that.
That's true. Oh, David, real quick, I got a question now from a listener, and I've got to answer this because one of them. So a really nice lady has asked a nice question. Of course, that's followed up by somebody who wants to answer for me, who's a leftist, probably socialist. I shouldn't say that because I don't know that. I shouldn't say that. But the question is. Was I saying earlier that a person of color or a Hispanic? The question is, was I saying earlier that they couldn't be a racist? And because the reason why, just to catch everybody up here, because this morning I was called a racist, just because I disagree politically. So this answer is going out to Annette Gauze, who is an awesome lady. She is the wife of Larry Gauze, who is my Newt Gingrich. One of the best things that came out when I ran for Congress, Josie, when I ran in my first time for Congress in District 4, one of the best things that came out of that is my friendship with Larry Gauze and his wife, Annette.
Okay.
Wonderful people. Well, Annette asked if I was saying if colored people of color or Hispanics or whatever could be a racist, or was I saying they couldn't be? So Annette, absolutely not. You know as well, we all know that anyone can be a racist. The question that I would have for the people that are on that feed that Annette was responding to is, do they even know what racism means? Do they know the definition of racism? First of all, we bastardize the word racist. And absolutely, there are examples of black people being racist every day. In fact, look to Chicago, and you can see black people being racist against their own people.
Wait a second. How about look at Congress?
And you can look at Congress. You can look at Congress and actions.
Somebody named Waters or something?
My point is that we bastardize the word, so when we use racism so much, it loses meaning. Everyone
Is that right? You know why they're minimizing that word? Because that's the main agenda of socialism. Is to take the meaning of words and the meaning of what is the original of something, deminimize it, dilute it, and then attach it to something else different.
You attach it to your opposition. In fact, it's a tenet. It's a tenet of communism. It's a tenet of socialism.
That's a tenet.
But what I would say is, when we're talking about racism is the inherent belief that you believe one race is greater, smarter, just inherently smarter, greater than another race. That's racism. Most of what people get into when they accuse people of being racism, they're actually accusing them of being prejudice or bigotry. I wish people would know the difference. But in that, absolutely, anyone can be a racist. If I'm a black person or if I'm a Hispanic, and I believe that just because I'm Hispanic, or
I am Hispanic. I spent over 20-something years in South Florida, okay? And sadly, very sadly, I mean, it's disappointed seeing people from one nation, from Latin America, being racist to another people from another nation from Central America, calling them names, because these people are a little more lighter skin, or because they didn't mix like me. I don't mix. I have black, white, and Indian in my blood. So I am the result of the three races. I am the main result. But some of these people, they only are a result of two races, only one, because they came from Spain and they stay in these islands and they never mix because they kill all the American, and then the black, they have the black separated, and a bridge between both of them. So they still continue to have that European Absolutely. So they're the ones who are attacking others. So there is racism in between the Latinos.
Absolutely.
The same thing with the black skin.
I experienced in District 4 when I ran that there were black people who were born in America. Their family has only been in America, and they consider themselves African American, who were loud and ugly to African immigrants.
Yes.
Who were supporting me.
And Haitians. And Jamaican.
Yeah. Just because they were supporting me. I was running as a Republican. Just because the immigrants, the African immigrants and the Haitian immigrants and Jamaican were supporting me, we had American-born black people that were angry with them and calling them names. They called them traitors. And so this is what I run into here. Is unfortunately we can be very mean. I shouldn't say we. There are people out there who can be very mean, and the reason why I responded was because of that. So we're
gonna end it, and get ready for Let's Talk Venezuelan with Josie and Kat. We'll be back right after this.
This is David Donald.